I've missed that overture. Since 2019, that was the last time we heard that overture live. That's the last time that the Carols Band was in the park. It's nice to hear it again. Well, welcome. It's great to have you here tonight. My name is Mark.
And I'm Roxanne. But Mark, talking about the park,
yes.
We're not in the park.
We're not in the park, unfortunately.
No,
You're sitting in
not.
chairs rather than on a nice comfy rug with crackers and cheese and
wine.
Beverages of your choice. It is a little bit sad.
It is a little bit different, maybe slightly more comfortable.
Yes, and I don't know how many of you noticed, we had a Carols type event today, and what happened at 2:30 this afternoon? Unforecast rain.
Yes.
It poured for 15 minutes, and I thought, ha-ha!
There it is.
We're inside tonight.
Yes.
So that was really nice. Right?
Situation normal, though,
That's
right?
right. So what we're doing tonight here is kind of a Carols event and kind of not. The band is here. It's good to have the band back together. It's great to hear you guys again. We're going to be singing some carols together, which would be great. But it's actually an opportunity for us to celebrate all that Carols has been. Because from now, moving forward, we're doing something a little bit different with our Christmas activity. But because of the way Carols ended with COVID and then a couple of online kind of attempts, we figured we needed an opportunity to stop, pause, reflect, and say thank you for the last 20 plus years. So, Rox, what's been one of your favorite memories of Carols?
Oh, Mark, I absolutely love carols. I also ran the kids section for the last few years, and so for me, the hilarious thing of brushing off hay and straw from like the sheep and the baby whatever, putting away baby Jesus, no more sheep, no more other things that animals produce, and then trying to get stage ready. That was difficult. Putting the lipstick on and screeching up. So yeah, that was my favourite thing. Is just how fast could I get ready?
Was it your favorite thing, or
yeah.
was it just the thing that you remember?
It was a thing.
Is it the trauma?
Yeah, the trauma of it all. It's the only time in the year that I actually drink full Coke, like sugared caffeine, the whole thing, just straight down. Carols Day.
Carols Day. How many of you have been to at least one Carols in the park? Fantastic. How many of you remember when Carols was not at Seymour Shaw but at Karela? Oh, got some more. How many of you remember when it was held at Gymea North Public School? Oh, we have some old-timers here, do we not? All right.
The OGs.
Well, it's great to have you here. Whether you are from our morning congregation or evening congregation, whether you're from our wider community, you just heard about the event and thought, I'm going to go to that anyways, it's great to have you here. We're going to take some time to sing some carols, and obviously it's an opportunity for us to do that in a way that we wouldn't at carols. I was saying to the band, at a carols event, normally people sang, between cheese dips. Yeah. And after that, it was kind of whatever was taking place. But we have the opportunity to sing a little bit tonight. So we're going to hand over to the band. Here they are. Would you welcome them as they lead us tonight? And we're going to sing. Why don't you stand and we'll sing a couple songs together.
Thanks, Tim.
Let's go.
Thanks, Mel.
Section.
All right, have a seat. And just can you give the band one more round of applause? We got Mitch on the drums and Steve on the bass and Dave on guitar, Charmaine's on the keys, Mike and Gareth are on horns. And can I just say that was very impressive, holding the music while playing with the other hand. I had never seen that. Well done. And then we got Tim and Mel leading us in singing tonight, so it's great. Well, as I said, there's an opportunity for us not only to sing some carols and be entertained by just some fantastic musicians, but also to celebrate a little bit about what's taken place over the last 20 plus years. And so I'm going to invite Carl Faze, who's there, he was there, now he's there, to join me on the platform. Carl, for those of you who don't know, was on staff here from 1994 to 2014, and from 1996 as a senior pastor here. And it was in 1994 when you were here involved as an associate pastor for community outreach and whatnot, that the idea of carols first started.
Well, it was actually slightly before that. The first time, here's a bit of boring history for you. This next month.
Boring history?
I know. Hang in there.
Is there such a thing?
This next month, it's the senior pastor. Got to be nice to. This next month will actually be 30 years since Jane and I moved to the Shire, which is unbelievable. The first gig, the first thing, church event I spoke at as a sort of pastor starting, was actually the carols in 1993, as was indicated from the back, was across the road. So some of you will remember that. The really, really old people will remember that it was actually across the road at the school hall. So Gymea, whatever it is, Tech College, whatever. And in 1993 I spoke at it, and it had been there a couple of years, and then 1994 I led carols over there, and then somebody at the end of this, one of these great moments, some of this great event, absolutely packed, fantastic event, and somebody comes up and says, so, that's pretty good, what are you going to do next year? Like, thanks a lot, you know. But the issue was that it was, we packed it. It was absolutely full. So it was either that's it, or you got to look at something else. There's no other venue in the Shire that we could afford that held that many people. And so therefore the only option was outdoors. So hence carols in parks and schools started.
1995 would have been the first outdoor carols at Gymea North.
Yes, which was a mark in history. Because ever since 1995, on whatever date we chose, it would rain.
Yes.
Now you think that's funny. That wasn't funny when you were organising it.
Until the year that you finished up and we ran carols.
The first year I wasn't running it.
Beautiful, calm, sunny day, and we realized it was you.
I know.
The only common denominator.
I sat there the whole night enjoying carols, completely miffed. It's sunny.
So what was the heart behind running a carols event? Was it just kind of, well, it's Christmas, we should sing some carols together, so let's hire a hall, rent a truck, and do it in a park? Like, what was the heart behind it from the church's perspective?
Clearly, as you know, that Mark, there's a kind of wider heart, and that is over the last 50, 80 years in Australia, Christian faith, the Christian church, has sort of been shuffled to the edge for all sorts of ways, which I won't bore you with, but it has actually been shuffled to the edge. And you're looking for times to go, so what is a time of year, what is an event where the church can actually engage with people and they want to be a part of it? And it's a short list. And Christmas and carols, it's kind of like, that's the event that we sort of own. So how do you do something that, and in my mind, that was accessible? In other words, it's easy to get to. Because there's lots of events where people run musical and stuff which is great, and you've got to book a ticket, and you've got to turn up to a hall and all that. And I'm not criticising them, they're great. But there's just a barrier. And if you can just turn up with your esky and put out your blanket, that's really accessible. 2, affordable. Free is normally pretty affordable. So it was affordable for everybody that turned up. Not so much from an organising point of view, but it was affordable. And it was just, it connected with what people wanted to do. And we realised, Mark's going to kick me, and that's only because it's the problem with preachers when you're in interviews, you just talk too much. So I apologise now. But let me tell you, this one time where we knew that we'd sort of got there. It was, I'm about to tell you it rained. I know you're surprised. And there was one year where we'd moved from Gymea North School, and we'd moved across, and the crowds just got bigger and bigger. And the reason we moved from Gymea North School, because it simply wasn't big enough. We went down to the Oval, Karela Oval, and we'd been there a few years, and the crowd had been building, so we were probably at that stage around 3,000 people. And there was this, so carols is on, we've done all the promotion, all that sort of stuff. 6 o'clock, I'm talking, I didn't just rain a bit, it bucketed, absolutely teemed.
Yeah, I remember it was just, it was full on.
Teeming. And then, it's just like this afternoon. It was about 6 o'clock. About 7 to 7:15, and it normally started at 8, it cleared. And we're like, well, no one's going to come now. I mean, who would be sitting at home at 6 o'clock thinking, yeah, this is a cracking idea, let's go to carols? It was full. And it was a bit like, we've got to the point where people go, if it's on, we're going to be there. And it was just, and we still had a marketing budget, but there was a bit of me that thought we could have given up the marketing budget because people just said, it's Christmas, it's carols, it's on at Karela Oval.
As soon as the rain stops, we'll show up.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I actually broke an umbrella one year. I came up to my office, I was so angry it was raining again, I broke an umbrella. Confession is good for the soul. It was a cheap umbrella and I didn't miss it, but there you go. I felt better.
So, what was your favourite memory, or what was one of your favourite memories of carols? I mean, that sounds like one of them. Just that whole kind of realization that, we found a bit of a home in our community. There's an expectation around it. But were there a couple of standouts or things that you looked forward to?
I mean, I got all sorts of memories. Like the year that there's another southerly blowing, and this massive southerly, and the guys are in the fireworks, and we're saying, can you send up fireworks? And they're like, well, yeah, we can send the fireworks up. And we said fireworks, and we'll turn around. There's a southerly going this way, the fireworks. They must have tilted them all. And so they shot them off over the Princess Highway. You could watch the sparks go up, and then they blew up over Kareela Golf Course. And it was just absolutely bizarre. There was a year where Bob Smith, some of you remember Bob Smith, he's a sign writer, and he came along and said, "Oh, Carl, I got these great stars. They'll look fantastic on the stage." And we're like, "Look at those stars. They're wonderful, great reflections, fantastic stars." I've actually got a meaningful memory in a minute. And we hung all these stars up. Then the southerly hit, and we realised these stars with very pointy edges were all metal. It's like, we probably should take those down. Just watching people just come each year. They'd come and greet me as if, I'm an old friend. I'm regular at your carols once a year. There was a year where one of our friends who was a supporter of carols but didn't ever go, loved the idea but didn't ever want to go. And one year he was telling me that he was talking to his daughter who didn't come to church, had a couple of kids, and his daughter rang him and said, "Hey, Dad." He said, "Yeah. Do you go to that carols thing?" "Yes, we do." So that he turns up at carols. We announce Christmas services at carols. "Dad, you go to Christmas services?" "Yes, we are." Well, it's just, that's what you're looking for, Mark. And it's that ongoing relationship where people keep turning up, love being there, celebration within the community. That is just so worthwhile.
And what do you think then, like the legacy? Like, what would you like to think that if people reflected, say, this year and think back on all that carols was, what would you want them to remember?
I just want them to remember this fabulous event, which was great quality, that was worth going, that we sat with our friends and saw all our other friends, and we talked all the way through the 5-minute talk. And we just had a great time, and we went home thinking, wasn't that good? And what was at the heart of it? The heart of it was the local church, just an average local church. The heart of it was people putting in and serving the community. The heart of it was the message of Jesus. We never did Santa, by the way. And the reason we never did Santa, because Santa's nice, but that's not what we're celebrating. And we're trying to stick with, what's the Christmas message? What's the Christian message? And we would hope, alongside of everything else, that would be ringing in their ears. And it's so nice to be at a carols event where the crowd is quiet. You have no idea what speaking, Mark does. You have no idea what speaking at carols is like. You stand up and you start your brilliantly crafted, wonderful message that you've sweated over all week, and you start talking, and halfway through you really want to say, is there anybody out there actually listening? There feels like there's more noise coming back at you than going out, but it's an act of faith. Look, it was absolutely worthwhile. And for anybody that's here, as Roxanne talked about, that put in, like Steve Fox and the band, and there's just so many people, Lance and Sheena Hind, and Andrew, Mark Drury and Andrew Merchant. These guys put in heart and soul. We would have our first meeting in about March. We'd work all year, and people would turn up, and all of you people would turn up and volunteer. And that was just a fabulous way to serve the community and be committed to the message of Jesus. And that's absolutely worthwhile, accessible, that people want to come to, that actually resonates the message of Jesus.
Would you think, Carl?
Yeah, good job.
That was good. That's the song I think everyone likes hearing really loud so you can sing along knowing that you're never going to hit any of those notes. But you did. Well done. Thanks, Tim. That was unreal. Maybe we'll get you to do that again at the end. No. Maybe we will. I don't know. We'll find out. Want to take just a moment. We got a couple more carols to do, but I wanted to kind of briefly talk about the way forward. I don't want to take too much time. The band's going to stay up. But just a couple of things to let you know that we've been working away at over the last little while. So first of all, in terms of why we've made this decision to reimagine our carols or our Christmas activity as a community of faith, there's a handful of reasons why carols in the park is no longer feasible or viable for us. The number one reason is that we were told by council that they were putting in synthetic pitches at Seymour Shaw, just like they did at Carrilla, and that we would no longer be able to use the venue. And there are, if you are familiar with the Sutherland Shire, very few large venues where you can fit several thousand people with decent infrastructure and good parking. They also have to be close enough to justify being Gymea Baptist Church's carols. I suppose we could go down on some beach miles from here, but it would be a little bit strange. And so that was one reason. Production costs continued to go up. We found it increasingly difficult to find external sponsorship. There was all sorts of other reasons, but I think if we had a venue, we would have pushed through nearly all of them. But the venue has been a really significant thing. To some degree, we were kind of saved by COVID. We weren't told until 2021 that we were able to use the site. Every time I drive past and they haven't started work on the synthetic pitches, I'm a little bit cranky. I would have liked them to have dug the whole thing up, so at least it looks like we couldn't use it for real because there were pitches in there, but nonetheless. And so we've done a whole bunch of thinking as a committee. Committee, as Carl mentioned, started meeting usually around March, sometimes a little bit earlier, to kind of review the previous carols and kind of think it all through. And trust me, we went through just about every conceivable option. So if you're sitting there thinking, yes, but did you think about? Yes, we did. We thought about it. We've kind of gone through as many options as we could and felt that the time had come for us to move in a different direction. But the heart behind our desire to do that remains the same, which is why I think we're so disappointed. I think if carols had just kind of faded out and become this really bad, dumb event where 5 people showed up, it would have been easy to kind of move to something else, but it was great. And that's part of the reason why it's been so difficult for us. So we gathered a bit of a working committee together, and I'd just like to thank Hillary Norse and Leah James, Jackie Martin, and Paul Carter, and we began to meet a little bit to talk a bit about what we could do. And there were a handful of criteria that we had that we wanted to make sure that we matched, some of which you already heard from Carl. So we wanted to make sure there was a free event for our community, something that no one had to pay for, that was convenient and easy to access, that celebrated the birth of Jesus. That was a pretty important part for us. We wanted someone that utilized our site. If we couldn't have a big site someplace where people could park, we wanted to utilize our buildings here. In order that might increase the chances to engage meaningfully with our community. While I think lots of people knew that Gymea Baptist Church ran carols, I'm not sure how many of them knew where Gymea Baptist Church actually was or made those connections. We want to make that a little bit clearer if we can. We also want to be able to use contributions from the Grace Point Cultural Music Trust, a trust fund that you might not even know that we have. But for those of you who do, it's one of the ways that you can give tax deductibly to Gymea Baptist Church, but that money has to be used for cultural and musical events such as carols or other Christmas activities. And we also wanted something that could start modestly and then grow over time. And so what we want to do is essentially a festival of lights. That is in quotation marks because I have no idea if that's actually what the title is going to be. We've just come up with the concept more than anything else. But it'll be essentially in 2 parts. So Carl mentioned that we wanted something that our wider community was interested in doing. And carols continues to be one of those things, but the other thing that our community is very interested in at Christmas is Christmas lights. There are more and more and more and more streets that have more and more and more and more lights. I actually looked it up this week. I Google searched best Christmas lights in Sydney. And the very first hit, so someone's paid a lot of money to be first on that list, was ellaslist.com.au, where you can find the best streets in any part of Sydney. And in the Sutherland Shire, there's Nolan Avenue in Engadine. There is a single house, 7 Scribbly Gum Place, Alfred's Point, 9 Aldergate Street in Sutherland, 162 Holt Road, Tarrant Point, 59 Carina Road, Miranda, and in Kirrawee, you have Bilga Street, Aranaus, who knows, some avenue that starts with O, and Hotham Road, Kirrawee. The 6 units just down the road, just across from Carl's house. Do you guys participate? No. We do now. We do now. So if you want to know what to get the phases for Christmas lights and really tacky lawn ornaments. But just down the road, that was one of the places where you should go and see lights. You know that for the last number of years we've lit up our tree. It got lit up on Thursday. I can see the star from our place in Oyster Bay. The first year we lit it up, we had stories of people who, like, it was so funny. We had people outside here and they kind of came up and said, oh, this is the star. We saw the star and came looking to see what was happening. It's like, do you know the story behind that? Because it sounds really similar, really. They didn't. So there you go. And so there's an opportunity for us to use our street frontage on the highway and the tree as well to kind of do something so it's a must-see lights display. We've already kind of got a kind of stuff up. We want to build modestly over the next number of years, and we would run that basically through Christmas, through December, as well as utilizing the windows that we have here and kind of putting it in Christmas displays, think DJ's window displays, that kind of a deal. So that would be the first part of it. The second part would be a bit of a festival, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days before Christmas, depending on how many volunteers we have and what we want to do. And there's no real end to what we could do. We could open up the building and you could have Christmas stalls in here. We could do a live nativity scene through the old kind of auditorium and kind of open up the side of the building. We could have live music on the opening night or the closing night or every night. We could have competitions and contests in the community. There's just no end to what we could do. So you'd have the kind of lights that people would come and see because they wanted to see what was going on here as part of the Hotham Road kind of light display, but also an opportunity then, 3 or 4 days or whatever before Christmas, to celebrate the birth of Jesus. There'd be connections into our community of faith, there'd be connections with our Christmas services, all of those sorts of things. And what we're hoping to do is to start somewhat modestly in 2024. That'll be the first time that we'll kind of really do something. We're looking at about 3 days before Christmas, depending on volunteers, and just really kind of go for it. Seek to serve our community and ramp that up over the next number of years. So that's the plan moving forward. The group has done some great work to kind of come up with some ideas about how we can do that. And there are 2 things that I would ask for you to do. 2 opportunities for you to do this Christmas. The first of them is this. Carols at Seymour Shaw was not the only Carols event that was held in this area, right? So go find a Carols event and support it. And if you would really like to support it, call them up and say, do you need volunteers? Because I can guarantee they're going to say yes. Even if it's just to help pack up afterwards. Just be a part of those services, support those Carols events in your local community. But also, we're going to be pulling together a committee. To do a festival of lights is not just as simple as whacking some lights on a tree, which is not a simple task at the best of times, nor is it something that we can just kind of do on our own. We need lots of people involved. And so if any of that strikes you as like, oh, that sounds really interesting, or I've got some skills or some design background or some marketing, or I just really love the idea of serving our community, you can snap that QR code that's on the screen, and that'll take you to an expression of interest form, and I will contact you early in the year, and we will start to pull together a bit of a committee to start thinking about how we can serve our community at Christmas, to give them a free, accessible event or several nights of events where they can hear the good news of Jesus Christ, which is why we celebrate Christmas in the first place. So I'm pretty excited about the opportunity that holds. It's a new direction. It's something different. But I think that it'll be a wonderful way for us to serve our wider community. And as I said, I'd like to thank the committee who did a whole bunch of work in coming up with all sorts of ideas, scouring the internet and calling churches and searching websites to find out what other churches have done to serve their wider community. So that's kind of the pitch. That's the vision moving forward. What we're hoping to achieve as we continue to seek to serve our wider community. So I hope that makes some sense. Hope that inspires you a little bit. Hope it kind of dulls a little bit of the sadness and disappointment about not being able to troop down to Seymour Shaw in a couple weeks' time. But I look forward to how we'll be able to continue to serve a wider community.